Nama works with every influencer and their mother, so all the Nama J2 videos, of course, seem a little biased. It's no wonder why you see posts on Reddit like this. Has anyone experienced the juicer and have honest feedback? Not the generic, everything is awesome and nothing is bad about it. So is the Nama J2 actually worth it, or are you being lied to? Because maybe there's something that they don't want you to know. And if the truth isn't your thing, you can stop watching this video right now. But if you're still here, it's because you're smart enough to see through the hype. So I'll expose the good, the bad, and the ugly before you drop $550 and possibly regret it, because what you don't know could cost you. The Nama J2 comes in all sleek white packaging. My first impression of the box is it's beautiful, but it's really freaking heavy. Opening it up, there's something that says a warm welcome from Nama, which is a nice touch, and the parts inside these boxes fit perfectly together like a piece of a puzzle. Let's unbox this thing in 3, 2, 1. This all looks strikingly familiar. I also have a Hurom juicer and the packaging looks almost identical. The hoppers are pretty much the same. The cords are identical. The blades are identical. If I didn't know any better, I'd say Nama uses Hurom as their manufacturer. Am I right? Let me know in the comments section. Looking at the parts, you've got an extra screen with bigger holes for making smoothies. The auger is solid and has these little unique golf ball grooves, and the juicer comes with a set of rubber wipers that keeps pulp from getting stuck, which is pretty standard these days. The hopper has a capacity of 35 ounces, which is great if you're somebody who likes to make big batches of juices. The base is quite heavy, and with the 3 settings, there's on, off, and reverse. Finally, they give you this juicing book, which, yeah, it looks nice and it comes with the juicer, but if you want something even better, I'll drop a link to my ebook, Juicing for Beginners, in the description below, where you'll get 40 chef-crafted recipes that are beginner-friendly with simple ingredients that you can find at your everyday grocery store, and the book was fact-checked by a nutritionist. Over 200 people have bought it already, but enough of that. If you're terrible at assembling juicers, you're gonna want to watch this next part. I like to test each juicer to find out how easy it is to put together without looking at the directions, because after all, you want it to be a simple machine, right? Well, the Nama J2 turned out to not be so simple. The first time around, it took me more than 2 minutes to put it together, and I thought to myself, for the love of God, why isn't this working? And after playing around with it for some more, there were about 2 gotchas that I can tell you about. So the first is that you can't lock the hopper while the juicing chamber is connected to the base, and the second is that there are 2 grooves that need to be aligned when you put the juicing screen inside the chamber. To be honest, it's not the easiest juicer to assemble, but the second time around, I was able to put it together in about 43 seconds. But now, here comes the good part. I used the Nama to make one of my favorite juice recipes from my juicing ebook. It's only 3 ingredients: apple, broccoli, and honeydew. And honestly, it came out pretty good. The pulp was dry apart from a few drops. I added some chia seeds, which helps with cholesterol levels and adds some insoluble fiber to the juice. And while I was juicing with this thing, it hovered around 59 to 76 decibels, which for those who don't know, is about half as quiet as your average blender. And juice isn't the only thing that you can make with this. You can make nut milks, you can make sorbets. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you are enjoying this video, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe to the channel. But now for the moment of truth. I'm going to show you the exact yield and how it compares to similar juicers. I chose to use celery, ginger, oranges, and leafy greens. Why did I use these? Because each of these is a good benchmark for hard, medium, and soft produce. For the celery, I measured out 6 ounces and that turned into 131 milliliters juice. Looks like we got some celery wrapped around the blades. In terms of the yield, it felt like it was high, but one thing I noticed was that the pulp was wet. For ginger, I measured 1.3 ounces and that turned out to be 26 milliliters of juice. Ginger got stuck in the hopper and wasn't getting crushed. I had to stop the machine multiple times to fix it. The reverse setting didn't really help either. Looking at it from the top down view, you can see it got caught in between the blade and the auger, which sometimes feels like a problem with this juicer. The blade can keep sweeping and sweeping and sweeping before the produce manages to actually make its way down into the auger and get crushed. I used 1 whole orange, which came out to be 8.5 ounces. That turned into about 155 milliliters of juice. Not much wet pulp, and it was pretty dry. For leafy greens, I used half a bag. And believe it or not, half a bag of leafy greens, that's only 2 ounces when I measured it out. So that gave me 28 milliliters of juice, which is a bit shocking because it doesn't really look like a lot. I just thought that there would be a lot more. Most of it was wrapped around the auger and the pulp was mushy. Was I happy with this? Meh. So how does the Nama J2 stack up against similar juicers? Well, here's the scorecard. And it was a bit disappointing for how much hype was behind this machine, but hang on. If you want to see how easy this is to clean, as everybody is saying, let's throw some time on the clock and find out. So 3, 2, 1. There you have it. It takes about 2 minutes and 16 seconds to fully clean this juicer. And here's how that compares against similar juicers. I still gotta show you everything people are leaving out in the reviews. But before we talk about those cons, let's talk about some of the pros of this machine because it is a decent juicer in my opinion so far. The 3 things that I liked about the Nama J2, well, let me ask you something. What's the point of a juicer? The point of a juicer is to separate juice from pulp. Otherwise, you might as well buy a blender, right? Now, with that said, some people don't like any pulp in their juice or as minimal as possible, but me personally, I don't mind it. I found out that the Nama J2 created juices with far less pulp than most juicers, so that was the first thing that I liked about it. Oof. But this second pro, I like this even more. Do you find it annoying to clean your juicer? Rinsing the parts is easy, but having to scratch and poke and prod, every single crevice can drive you nuts. The Nama J2 has this drawbridge underneath the pulp ejector that you can pull back and easily clean. I absolutely love this. And was the Nama J2 the fastest to clean? No, but it was relatively easy thanks to this feature. And the last pro, which I'm sure you're gonna love, juicers break, right? Things can happen, but sometimes it's not your fault. And when that does happen, you have to call up your manufacturer and you have to explain to them all the details. And sometimes they don't even want to help you. And this isn't the case with Nama. Their customer support is great. They have a 10-year warranty on not just the parts, but the motor too. But it's not all rainbows and sunshine here. We got to talk about the cons nobody seems to mention about this machine. So here are the 3 things that I disliked about the Nama J2. When using the Nama, it felt premium, but for a premium juicer, I just expected a little bit more. You know what I mean? Specifically when it came to the pulp. Whenever I did a squeeze test, I was sort of disappointed. I know juices aren't perfect and some produce creates wet pulp more than others, but I just expected more, especially with the hype of this machine. And that was the first thing that I didn't like. But the next con drove me absolutely insane and will probably drive you insane too. I'm a simple guy. I like to think of myself as being patient, but there are times where I just get overwhelmed, specifically with the parts in this thing. It feels like a damn puzzle with too many extra parts that I have to clean. I noticed this more after I started comparing this juicer to the Hurom H400 and the Hurom H310. And the lid, oh my God, the lid boils my blood. Like, don't get me started on the lid right now. No matter how many times I clean the machine, I always forget that the lid is detachable. So what do? I run the hopper under some water and the lid always falls off. Another thing about the lid is that it feels like it's gonna snap sometimes when you go to close it. Almost like it isn't seated properly and you have to take it off and put it back on. And if you try to force it, it feels like it's gonna break. So that was the second con, and nobody talks about this last con. Why do you buy a cold press juicer? Because a centrifugal juicer generates heat, and heat is bad for nutrients. So hotter juice means a less nutritious juice. Well, when I was comparing the H310 versus the Nama J2, this next part kind of shocked me. I ran both the machines for the same amount of time with the same amount of ingredients, and the Nama J2 was 5 degrees Celsius or 41 degrees Fahrenheit hotter. I noticed the heat of the base of the Nama J2 was much closer to the juicing chamber than the H310. I have no clue how much this matters, but I don't like the idea of spending this kind of money on this type of juicer and getting hotter juice. So that was the third con. And with that said, I don't think it's a crazy deal breaker here. So is the Nama J2 a decent juicer? Yeah, I'd say so. Do I think it's worth the money? I personally think it's overhyped. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it, but if you don't watch this video first, you might regret it.